Hey everyone, welcome to Yarnyak. I'm Kimmer.
I'm Carla.
Welcome to Yarnyak, where we yak about yarn and fiber crafts and whatever we want that has
All
to
the
do with yarn
things.
and anything else we want to talk about too. We're coming to you from our local yarn shop, The Stash in Malden, Wisconsin. And tonight we are yakking about the evolution of technology and yarn. Cool versus now.
That's right.
That's what we're talking about. But first, I have a couple shout outs to make. So we have this like buy me a coffee page thing, which is really cool. And some of our lovely yarning buddies have gone on there and bought us a few coffees and supported this content and made it, slightly fun to do this than it already was, which we really appreciate. So we want to shout out to Shane for our coffees. Hey Shane, thank you so much for that. We appreciate
You're the
it.
best.
And Chris.
Also,
Also, thank you so much, Chris, for your coffees. You're the best. And Naked Kathy, who also got us some coffees.
You're the best.
I love it. So we want to thank those people and let everyone else know that if you choose to jump on Buy Me a Coffee and support us, we do have some treats for our supporters, and we will send them to you. All you have to do is send us your address at ASKYARNYAK@gmail.com. As well as, if you ever have any questions about anything to do with yarn in any way, shape, or form, you can send it there. Maybe we'll do a show on it. Maybe we'll just answer your question. But we love to get ideas, and we love to know what you guys are wondering about. No question is dumb. No question is dumb, ever. So yeah, AskYarnYak@gmail.com. And let us know your thoughts.
No spaces.
No spaces. It doesn't work if you put spaces. It's weird. I know, right? Did it just get warm in here, or is it just me?
It's just you.
Is it just my magnificent Superwash Merino wizard wrap?
It is. I believe so. It must be the wizard
It must
wrap.
be the wizard wrap.
Yes.
It's wizarding. It's making me warm. So anyway.
It's magical.
It's magical. Like Megan. Speaking of Megan, who is freaking magical.
She's magical.
Happy birthday to our very own Megan Fry, who babysits the store for us while we are doing Yarn Yak, which this would be very difficult to do without her willingness to show up here every Tuesday.
You're the
do
best.
That. You are also the best.
You're the best.
Thank you. Thank you. Happy birthday to Megan, a longtime stash buster. We love her. She's a
ball of freaking energy.
She is a ball of energy.
She is a delight.
She is a delight.
Anyways, Carla.
Yes.
What you been working on this week?
Oh my gosh, I've been working on this little thing. I haven't gotten very
little
far.
zipper pouch, by the way.
Yes, thank you. It's beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful. So I have been knitting.
You have been knitting.
I have been knitting. And I've been working on this little scarf.
So cute. And that's a free pattern, yes?
It is a free pattern.
So,
and that is on in the newsletter.
On the Yarnyak page.
On the Yarnyak page.
On our website.
On the website.
There we go.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
But it is a free pattern. It's a 2-row repeat. It's not overly difficult.
I like the little light ribbing that.
Yes. Yep. It does.
Yeah.
On the one side, and then the other side is pretty as well.
Yeah.
And this yarn is amazing.
That's okay, I'm not gonna say this right, so people who speak Spanish, do not butcher me on this, but fresco wasico, there's like a Y in the middle.
Yep.
E?
Yeah.
Is that how you say it?
Yeah.
Fresco wasico?
Yeah. Seco.
Okay. Seco. Something like that.
Yep.
Something like that.
It's really pretty because it's not
but I love
just a green. It's got some a little bit of blue in there, a little hint of it, and it also veers towards the yellow side.
It's a good color.
Yeah, it's very pretty.
Yeah, that's a really good color for you.
Yes,
very very good color.
Yep. So I've been working on this just off
and you're working those on a little pair of circulars.
I am little circs. I have not actually gone without the training wheels. This is my favorite. Having the having that, it makes me feel a little safer.
I'm fixing to get started on this. Speaking of which, next week we will have our knitting instructor, Allie, will be our very special guest. We'll be doing an episode on starting knitting, especially as a crocheter. Allie is very bistitchual. She does both. So she will hopefully be able to give us some tips and tricks. If you are a crocheter who would like to try knitting or start knitting or retry knitting, as is the case for me, this will be my 9th attempt. Not because it's not hard, but because I have to want to do something.
Yeah, I was going to say, you really have to.
I have to want to do something to do it, especially if I find it any of the things that are like in the tedious, frustrating, or intimidating category, which I personally, at this moment right now anyway, find knitting to be all 3 of those things. But I really don't know how to do it yet, so it's not a fair statement. So anyway, that's next week. This week, should I tell you what I've been doing?
Yes.
I just finished it. Literally, we were 1 minute late because I was like pushing to get the last pocket on my Wizard pocket wrap. Here, I'll hold it up for you. So this is my half iris pocket wrap pattern. It's a really super simple crochet pattern. If you are a new crocheter or you need a Netflix and chill project to do, this is it. Because once you do your very first setup row, you're just doing the iris stitch, only with a half double instead of a full double. And you don't even, it's super easy to start once you understand your stitch counts and size it for the kind of yarn that you're using. It's super easy. So you can grab that pattern on our website. If you go to the ASKYARNYAK page, you'll see the pattern is highlighted and goes right to the link. So if you're interested in trying that, you can use any yarn to make it, but I used Wizard, and it took me 5 balls plus with the pockets included, and I had a little left over of the 5th ball to make this about mid-hip length. I would say mid-hip length pocket wrap.
Yep.
So, and nice and deep. So it's just, it's cozy. It's very nice. This yarn is warm. I like it a lot. So anyway, that's what I did this week. Fabulous. I did most of it in the car on a 9-hour trip down and a 7-hour trip back. I did a little bit one day. I don't know if you saw, but there's a picture on the stash page of this about halfway while it was still a whip, laying on the nose, the very tippy tip of the nose of a black bird at this museum, this air and space museum called Cosmosphere, which is where me and my husband were visiting that day. I asked permission if I could lay it on there and take a picture of it, and they said yes, and so I did.
So when she says blackbird, it is not your little fine feathered friend. It is an SR-71.
An actual SR-71.
Yes.
Stealth, right?
Yeah.
Stealth.
Yep.
Stealth bomber. So that was cool. That was very cool.
Amazing.
Yeah, it was a great museum. So anyway, I had a really good time, and I definitely needed the little break. So anyways, our episode tonight is technology and yarn, old school versus now, and how things have changed and what's good about that and what's, maybe, I don't know, not good, just, different or something. So I'll tell you a little story. In the old days, how I know about the old days, because I'm old, but I'm not that old. In the old days, like prior to World War II, old days, my ex-mother-in-law told me this story way back in the day when she first kind of got me really, understanding crocheting and just doing it better than just like, single crochet. Making a mess of things and making pizza all the time when she got me like situated. She was telling me how she was showing me some of these booklets, and she was telling me how when she was a girl, 14, 15 years old, she just had finished school and started working out, is what they called it, working out of the house. She was a cleaner and a childminder for some farmers down the road. And she would work, 12 and 14-hour days, and they would wait all month long for the mailman to come to bring this little booklet with like 4 or 5 patterns in it. And for crocheting and knitting, and usually mostly knitting, but they had both. And it was like the highlight of the whole month, because it was what they would do. It was what they would do for pleasure and entertainment. And I just thought it was so interesting how things have changed. Because you know what I'm saying? Because
Absolutely.
you can get
instant
75 million patterns at your fingertips on the internet now. Like there's no waiting. And it's actually overwhelming. How many people do you know that go down the rabbit hole of various sites. So let's talk about that. Let's start with yarn arts are, can we all agree, are still, though, what has not changed is that they are our escape.
Yeah.
From anything that we feel is drudgery. Now, whether it's real drudgery or not is a point of perspective, but the point is that whatever you have to do, yarn is your escape from whatever you have to do to what you want to do. Usually, people who yarn, that's usually how they feel about it, as far as I know. So that has not changed. That it's still pleasure time, even if it's work, even if what you're doing is work or hard for you, it's still pleasure versus, you know, things you have to do that aren't yarn.
Right.
Anything I have to do that's not yarn is stupid. That's how I feel.
It's a waste of my time.
Well, I don't know, but it's not a waste of my time, but it's stupid. Okay? It's just stupid. So the biggest things that we were talking about, me and Carly were hashing this over a little bit, like the biggest things we feel like have changed is maybe the most, like the greatest change is how you are inspired. Like how, in what ways you are inspired, like how that inspiration comes to you. How we get patterns has changed a lot, and then how we keep and organize our patterns. So, and maybe even how much yarn we buy. Because I know that in the old days they bought wool to make something, and when it was gone, they didn't have, you know, and then they would get more wool to make something else. It wasn't like now where we collect yarn as a side hobby. to yarning. You know, I definitely do that. So how we are inspired, like how are you inspired? I mean, we have yarn shows like this one. Bloggers, lots of bloggers, Instagram, Facebook, and then there's the biggies.
Pinterest,
and Ravelry.
Yeah.
How many of us have spent literally whole days on Pinterest and Ravelry or some of the other really monstrous sites where there's, you know, 1,000 pages of patterns.
So many
and you
things.
just sit there and click and save and download and click and save and download and, or, you know, buy seriously $200, $300 worth of patterns in one day. That's like that's a lot. And I'm not, there's nothing wrong with that.
There's no judging.
No judging. No.
Judgment-free zone.
Absolutely. But it's interesting that we collect patterns like we collect yarn now because there's so many. And it what worries me about it a little bit though is how I feel if I have a lot of patterns in front of me that I haven't started yet. I start to feel like I have done something wrong. Like I have failed in some way. Because I'm not doing all these things, I'm doing something else or whatever. I haven't gotten to it yet. That's kind of crappy. Like that's not, you know.
Well, and it's not very productive either.
No. It's almost like you mind, you know, your own mind. You get the pattern with every intention of doing the pattern, and then when you don't get to it, you feel like you have, you know, missed the step or whatever, like you've been lazy, or something like that. So be mindful of that. You know, collect patterns by all means, collect thousands of patterns, but don't set yourself up in your head to think that you have to do every one of those patterns or you've done something wrong because you liked it and you grabbed it. That's not true. You know, sometimes we need to look at 4 or 5 patterns in order to come up with a you know what, I like that one. I like that one. That one seems kind of hard, but you know what? I think I really want to make something like that, but not quite that.
Yeah, and I want the attributes of this one, and I want that one. And you know what? Maybe I want to use this color scheme way over here.
So that's all inspiration. That's
absolutely.
Having a whole bunch of patterns and only making one thing out of all 5, 6, or 10 of those ideas is a form of inspiration. So maybe look at it that way, and that might, you know, make you not feel bad for getting patterns and not doing them, because you're not probably going to do all your patterns. That's okay.
There's not enough life left for me to do them because
Carla's going to croak before she gets through them all.
Oh my gosh! Well, unless you
get bit, unless you're a vampire.
Oh, unless I'm a vampire.
Unless you're a vampire, then you could get through.
You know, or I actually do turn into a dragon, and then live forever, guarding my hoard,
guarding your dragon hoard.
Yes.
Yeah. So another thing that I think has really changed, like drastically, like upended the apple cart for as far as technology goes to yarn, is the smartphone.
Oh my gosh.
Because now it's not even just having a whole like library of patterns on your desktop computer at home. Now you could look at patterns anywhere
In
the bathroom,
Yep.
on your coffee break at work, your lunch break, sitting as a passenger, I hope, in a car.
Yeah.
Please be a passenger if you're looking at your phone in the car.
Absolutely a passenger.
Especially in this kind of weather like we're having right here. If you're not from around the Midwest, we're getting currently pummeled by a snowstorm right now. It is definitely not a great idea to look at your phone while you're driving in this weather.
Right.
Not that it ever is, but not today. But yeah, your smartphone. So because of the smartphone, you have the ability to look at patterns, look at finished projects, bloggers and different posts and designers and all their projects. You can quickly and easily move from thing to thing to thing, just tapping on your phone.
Yes.
You also can view tutorials and see all different ways to carry out, you know, and one tutorial can lead you to another tutorial, maybe a stitch, or check out my other links here, blah, blah, blah. And pretty soon, you know, 4 hours have passed and you've been watching YouTube videos.
Yes. Forever.
Again, no judgment. And I'm not saying that that's bad. I have had days where all I could do with my love of yarn was look at patterns or watch video tutorials, and I couldn't actually yarn that day. Sometimes when you lose your knit mojo or your crojo, sometimes that's what gets it back for you, is spending some time on that aspect of it, you know, whether or shopping for yarn.
And it's almost like researching,
patterns.
you know, it's almost like research.
Absolutely.
Or maybe, you know, you see something and you're like, oh, you know what? I'm going to go down to the yarn store and I'm going to look at some yarn because whatever. And then you get down there and you're like, oh my gosh, this is the one that I want. Oh, but how much did I need? And now you have that pattern with you on your phone.
Yeah,
and
on your phone.
You can look and see.
Yeah, there's just a lot. The way we do this, the way we carry this out has completely changed. It's made it so much more accessible and so much more intuitive, like instinctive, you know. You can make decisions much more quickly because of all of the things that we have at our fingertips that have to do with our love of yarning, is what I'm trying to say. I think you know, you can photograph, screenshot, you can take pictures of yarn, you can take pictures of a pretty table setting and then look for yarn in those colors. I mean, it's endless, like what you can do with your phone that has to do with any kind of yarn hobby.
And you know, and sometimes I see something out and about that I just love the colors. You know, you just, even if it's something, it's part of the landscape, or it's a flower or whatever.
How many yarn dyers now have you seen they're using that method to dye yarn? Yes. They take a photo and they pull a palette from the photo and then they dye the yarn. Yeah. For one thing, us as consumers, as yarn consumers, we like that connection to an idea for colors, because that underscores the way the yarn itself makes us feel. If we associate a colorway with a picture that we saw, then the idea of that picture, for me, I know it is. Arcane Fiberworks is really good about that, but they're not by any means the only ones that do that. Bad Sheep Yarn does that. A lot of indie dyers, that is a newer method of choosing colorways that's emerged in the last probably 15 years, 10, 15 years. And really the indie dyer arena has really taken off in that same time period. And I wonder if that's why.
Well, and you think about that, it's not even just taking your color palette from a picture or nature or whatnot. There are those dyers out there that use nature to dye their yarn.
Dye the yarn in the first place. Yeah. It's not just the color of onion skins, it's the color onion skins turn yarn and
Right.
they use onion skins to dye it.
Right,
Yeah, that's
exactly,
also very
yeah.
interesting.
So, and then along
And
with
the fact that we know that is from the advent of technology
Yes,
and yarn.
absolutely.
Because I would have never known that before.
Exactly, because I'm not going to say that I've gone down a rabbit hole or two, but I've gone down a rabbit hole or two. There's also not just the coloring of the yarn, but there's people out there who write the patterns for an Afghan that are inspired them, nature inspired them for that. So now
some
their
visual
pattern,
inspiration and the pattern is carried out by that. Yep.
And now their pattern reflects what the picture they took at the ocean,
Exactly.
or out in the fields.
Well,
or,
look at my turtle pattern that turtle stitch that I kind of designed.
Yep.
Not saying like I made something up out of thin air. It's just a combination of a few basic crochet stitches, but the way it pulls itself to the side and widens at the top is reminded me when I first did it of a turret shell, which is a kind of shell that you find all over the world, but I've seen often going picking shells at the beach in the Seattle area, the Puget Sound area where my parents live. So that again, inspiration from just something I saw.
Absolutely.
You know.
Absolutely.
So that happens, I think, in a lot of areas, but it's particularly interesting to me because I spend my life around yarn. So that's where I see the association and the advancement of technology with what it has to do with my hobby.
And it's so handy to have a camera right there, you know, and not having to worry about bringing your camera along.
Oh yeah,
everywhere.
yeah. Remember
Because you have
before? I don't know how many of you remember, but I'm sure some of you do. Remember before smartphones, before you had a camera on your phone, before you had that encyclopedia dictionary,
the world at your fingertips.
The world at your fingertips, literally, plus a camera. So. I mean, you know, like I said, how you are inspired, it comes from all over. It can come from your yarn friends. I get inspired by my yarn friends all the time. I am often inspired to choose yarn colors for the shop by things that I have seen my yarn friends choose or wear or do, the things that they like. I'll be like, oh my gosh, I know someone who would just love that colorway. And if one person loves it, other people will too. So that happens to me a lot. And then there's Pinterest and your Facebook feed, Instagram if you have that. TV and movies, that's another interesting one.
Huge.
We were talking about this episode and we started like giving each other examples just off the top of our heads of things that we have seen, basically famous yarn projects. And we made a little list here. I'm just going to read a few off to you because I find it very interesting. So if you ever watched Call the Midwife, there is yarn in almost every episode of that show because of the time period. It's the mid 50s to the late 50s and then all through the 60s. And so yarn was huge. Then the yarn arts were huge then, even in the UK, especially in the UK. And there is a couple of really famous pieces where there are patterns written for it. One of them, it's called the Call the Midwife baby blanket or the Dragonfly blanket. And it's from the Baby Raymond episode. That pattern is straight out of that movie or that TV show. And there's another one where one of the nurses has a baby and the rest of the nuns and the nurses make her a blanket. She had complications. And so Chummy's delivery blanket, the blanket squares in that is a classic pattern. And the way that they stitch them together evokes some pretty strong feelings of friendship and yarning because they do a stitch circle while they kind of like a prayer shawl mold while they sort of meditate and pray and hope for her recovery from this horrific delivery that she had. And that episode kind of gets to you when you watch it, just because of the deep friendships that are formed and the way yarn just kind of worms its way in and around those things, you know, how we do that, how we make things for people and think about them while we're making them. So the Bridgerton, the ladies' tea capelet, I have a pattern that I named the Bridgerton capelet, and it's from that show. The first season of that show, there's several episodes where there are a few shots of women at tea together, and they're wearing a little crocheted capelet. And it just reminded right away when I designed it, I was like, oh my gosh, and it's just like Bridgerton, and I just love that. That visual of that show, the colors, everything, it's amazing. You tell them the Big Bang Theory.
So the Big Bang Theory, there's Amy's blanket. Amy's.
We found several
yeah.
over the backs of couches
Over
and
the
several
backs of
really
couches.
famous TV
Yes,
shows.
Yep.
Yeah. Roseanne.
Oh, that's
the
huge.
show Roseanne,
Yeah.
the couch blanket, Dan's
Yep.
couch blanket. That's what he called it.
Yep.
The couch blanket. Where's my couch blanket?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yep.
It's called an Afghan, Dan. Just yeah, stuff like that. Phoebe's blanket on her bed on the show Friends. There's a few episodes where you see that. It's really beautiful. That's really beautiful. I'm pretty sure it's crocheted. I tried to get a really close look at it. I don't know that there's a pattern for that blanket. It would be interesting to find out. There's other things too in movies. One of the probably the most famous pieces of crochet that's running around these days is the Katniss cowl wrap from the Hunger Games. Many people have made. I have made it. Many people have made it. And then there's from Parks and Rec, the Ann Perkins Afghan. There's actually a pattern for that.
Yeah.
So
anybody who's
also
a Parks and Rec
interesting.
fan.
So what awesome yarn thing have you guys seen in TV and movies? Comment on the episode and let us know so we can look it up. I love looking at stuff like that.
So there's one that we missed. I don't know how we missed
Which
this.
one?
It's huge, but Outlander.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Derp.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
There's a lot of good yarn
Yes.
in Outlander.
There's
Claire's
pattern
wrap.
books.
Yeah,
Yes.
there's whole books for that. Oh yeah,
Specific
totally.
for
How
it.
did we miss
I
that?
don't know. I was thinking that. I'm like, I can't believe we totally missed this
Totally
one.
missed Outlander.
Right.
Yeah, Outlander has some great yarn
Oh my
stuff.
gosh, yes.
Great. And there's tons of patterns that have been written for that. There's a few crochet, mostly knit, but there's definitely things that you could easily convert to crochet from knitting.
Absolutely, yeah.
So, yeah, let us
Yeah.
know if you can think of some awesome yarn object.
Yeah, for sure. Let us
Especially
know.
if you know of a pattern for it, that would be even cooler. Make sure that you comment that if you have that information when you comment the thing. But
yeah, absolutely.
otherwise, we'll look it up and see if we can hunt it down.
Yeah.
So yeah, so what things that have changed that are super useful? Me and Carla think the number one thing that's changed that's the most useful is having patterns with you everywhere you go. You can save patterns to your phone and look at them at any moment, at any time, and get whatever information you need from it. You might go blind trying to read your pattern on your phone, but you can see how much yarn you need or what hook you need or whatever quickly, at least on your phone.
Or instead of bringing a big piece of paper, I have my pattern for this, the free pattern that free had. I have it saved to my phone, my device, so that I have it and I don't have to have the paper because I will forget it at home or somewhere else.
Yep. The other thing that I think is probably the most helpful is kind of like a slight second place, but almost a tie. Is the advent of video tutorials.
Oh my gosh.
Our ability to teach ourselves how to do things has been advanced hugely by the fact that not only can you find a pattern or yarn online, but you can also usually find some kind of tutorial that shows you how to do a thing, especially some of the more basic things. There's tutorials for everything by tons of different people all over the internet, but most especially YouTube. And that little thing right there has changed everything because the average person can literally teach themselves how to do a thing and then how to do specific parts of that thing straight from tutorials, especially if you're a visual learner.
Yeah. And there's also patterns that are only done with a tutorial. And those, you know, for people that don't read patterns, that's huge.
That's huge. Yeah. To not have to be able to read the pattern, to be able to just follow the directions on a tutorial.
Gone are the days of frustration.
Well, at least they're taken way down. Way
but
down.
I just remember trying to decipher patterns and trying to teach myself, you know, how to crochet and struggling because the pattern didn't match or whatever.
Or it didn't make sense to you.
Yes, not at all.
Again, patterns. We're going to talk about. We're about to do a series of shows coming up here soon. Probably after Christmas, about patterns. And one of the things we're going to talk about is the differences in the vast differences in pattern language based on the designer and how they perceive what they wrote, how they understand what they're writing, and how that may be greatly different from how you understand
and
what
from
they're writing.
person to person.
Yep, exactly. Everybody. So that's a thing, definitely. Things that are maybe not so great that have changed. It's a kind of a double-edged sword. So one of the things that's great is also not great, which is the whole Pinterest Ravelry thing. The pattern websites, they're amazing because you can find so much stuff, but they are also
Oh,
They can also invoke
it's
some
a huge detriment to give you so much all at once.
it can be pretty overwhelming, and
Mhm.
it can be pretty difficult to not be distracted by the sheer immensity of your choices to the point where you just don't do anything because you have seen so much, and you can't choose, or you can't back out of it and just pick one thing and shut it off and do it. I know I see a lot here, even people who are trying to actually yarn. They're working a whip, but every 2 seconds they're picking up their phone and they're looking at something else. And so they're actually not getting much done because their phone is distracting them. And I'm not talking about phone like a phone call. I'm talking about they're looking at patterns, they're looking at other yarns, they're looking at, just all kinds of different things. So it's just something to be aware of. It's a tool. It's a highly useful tool, but it is just a tool. And don't let it stop you from actually making something.
Well, yeah.
Once you start working on something, just work on that.
Yeah, and sometimes it's a focus thing.
Yeah.
Because I'm totally guilty of that.
Oh, everyone is. Me too. I'm not. Yeah.
No, there's no judgment, but
No
I'm
judgment.
just saying that I'm totally guilty of that. And sometimes I find myself doing that, and it's like, oh yeah, I came down to the stitch pen to stitch. Not to.
I think it's just like I said, it's a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
I think it can be overwhelming. It can make you feel underproductive, and it can even stall you out from actually doing anything. So if you find yourself consistently having that happen to you, you might need to set some time aside that it's phone free, where you just have your yarn and you don't have your phone.
Yep.
I'm all for taking a break.
Yep.
And cruising through some patterns or whatever, looking for inspiration or ideas.
Yeah.
But just keep that in mind. If you find yourself only doing that and never making anything, you might need to shift your attention.
And for myself, it's a detriment. Finding other things that I want to do, because all of a sudden I need to stop what I'm doing and
do
start
something
something else.
Again, that's another thing though that we all do. Okay, everyone does it, or at least most people do it. It's everyone's personal decision. When you have too many whips, what's too many whips? Okay.
I haven't reached it yet, but I have a lot.
Yeah.
But I haven't reached it yet.
It's everyone's, everyone has to work that out for themselves.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But again, if you feel you have too many whips and you find yourself on your phone looking at patterns and doing, on Pinterest or whatever while you intended to be stitching, and you find that situation to be happening more than you would like, it's not a terrible idea to stick your phone out of reach in another room or whatever. I think I find that if it's just out of my reach, I'm comfy.
I don't want to get
usually
up and get it.
I'm usually pretty happy to just keep stitching, and I don't want to get up and get my phone. So that's an idea, just something to think about.
It's totally true.
Yeah. Another thing we talked about real quick, and we're just going to touch on this a little bit because I think we basically already covered it. No judgment here. Collecting patterns is not the same as doing projects. And if you do like having lots of patterns, one thing that we suggest to help you use more of your patterns, I did not say all, use more of your patterns, is just to organize them. So at least when you are searching for a cowl pattern, you are only looking at cowl patterns while you are doing that.
No distractions.
It's very difficult to pick a pattern for a cowl if you see 700 other patterns for blankets and sweaters and scarves and mittens, coasters, stuffed animals, and Christmas ornaments while you are trying to find that one cowl pattern that you can't remember the name of. So it's pretty easy to make file folders even on your phone and deposit those patterns at least by subject.
That's the very least. Ever did.
It'll help you a lot to not get too distracted.
Right.
If you got to look through 400 cowl patterns, at least you're only looking at the ones you're trying to make.
Right.
For the moment. And if you do hard patterns, you can do the same thing. We have binders here at the store where the patterns were very, very graciously organized by a couple of our regular customers into very accessible knit and crochet binders, and then they are organized by what the thing is. Like, here's all the cowl patterns, here's all the mitten patterns, so that was really nice. It was a task that I myself would have found extremely overwhelming to do. And so people who like to organize things, when they do stuff like that for me, I'm always like, so anyway, I hope that you guys found that fun and interesting information. If you have any thoughts or ideas about those things, you can comment on this, or you can send it to ASKYARNYAK@gmail.com.
No spaces.
Yeah, no spaces. There's no space. It doesn't work with spaces. So anyway, you also could visit our website, and you could jump on YouTube and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Don't forget to ring the bell so you get notified when we upload. Sometimes we upload things, that aren't a Yarniac episode you might want to see. You never know. It's hard to say, but you never know. So anyway, been to any desert islands lately?
I wish I was there now. I bet they don't have snow.
But they don't have snow. So we have a deserted island question. We have quite a few. Well, not quite a few. Well, we have a met full now. We always want more. So Carla pulled one out of the bin today, and we're gonna go ahead and. You guys, some of you guys you're sick and twisted with your questions. I'm just saying, some of you are. Yes. This one's not sick and twisted, but
no,
it's mean. You're making me think. Okay. All right. Ready, set,
yes.
Read it.
So you're on a deserted island,
as we have said.
Wow, snarky.
Snark.
You're walking along the beach, and you find a bottle. You open the bottle.
Is there booze in it?
You're hoping. You open the bottle. Nothing comes out but some smoke, some fluff.
Fluff and smoke.
Yeah. And a genie appears.
Dang.
A genie.
It's
right?
a genie.
Right?
Does he have booze?
Well, maybe. The genie grants you 3 wishes. What are they?
Oh my God. 3 wishes? That's the question?
Yeah, but one of them is not that you cannot wish yourself off the island.
That's not on the table.
No.
All right. 3 wishes. I can't wish myself off the island. I don't really want to get off the island.
It's warm.
The sand is warm. The water is cool.
Yep.
3 wishes. I wish for unlimited food and water.
Mm-hmm.
I wish for unlimited yarn. Any yarn I want. All I have to do is picture it and go, and I've got it in my hands as much as I want. And I wish for all my yarn friends to be on the island with me.
Oh, great. Purgatory.
There. That's my 3 wishes.
Did you wish for them to have their utensils and yarn with
It
them?
doesn't matter because I have
you
unending.
have
I have
unlimited.
unlimited. So all they have to do is describe to me what they want, and I visualize it, and ka-chunk. And I go, here you go.
Awesome.
Here's your peas and carrots, Carla.
Yes. I love peas and carrots.
I know. That's a pretty good. I mean, was I supposed to wish for world peace or something like that?
No.
I'm not wasting a wish.
No. Well,
I'm just saying, I don't think it would work.
yeah. Yeah.
That's my 3 wishes. Do you have
That's
3
awesome.
wishes?
I would wish for food and water as well, but I would have to add a caveat because those genies can be.
Would you be specific with the
I'd be
genie
like,
about the food and water?
I would like edible food and drinkable water because you're surrounded by water, but it's
true.
Not drinkable, and they're tricky.
That's true. I have read that. You do need to be pretty specific with genies.
Yeah.
Or they would hand me a crab and point to the ocean.
Here you go, Kimmer. Carla's right here.
Right? Food,
Crab.
water.
Yeah.
Neither one of which I'm going to eat or drink.
Exactly. Got to be specific. Got to be Pacific.
Specific.
So that, and yeah, I'd probably wish for unlimited yarn.
Because what else are you going to do?
I know, right? And
You can't wish yourself off the island. You got to have something to do.
I can't, but I wish for a boat.
When he give it to you, though, it's away off the island.
But I didn't wish myself off the island. I just wanted a boat.
Just want a boat. That works for me.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
How about you?
3 wishes.
3 wishes.
On a deserted island and you can't get off the island with them. So what are you going to wish for? It's a good question. Whoever thought of that. It's a good question.
Yes.
I have to look
kudos
at my
to you.
email to see who thought of that. I don't know
Kudos
what it
to you.
was, but yeah, it's a good question. So anyway, well, tune in next week,
Next week.
episode 13.
13,
How to start
lucky
knitting
number
with
13.
special guest, Allie.
Yes.
Let me make
Special
sure we give her
guest.
a big old warm Yarnyak welcome.
That's right.
She pull her chair out from under her. So
Right.
I would never do that to
Spin her
Allie.
around.
Make her dizzy. Yeah, so that's what we're doing next week, and we
Yes.
hope you will join us. And
Please join
until
us.
then, we hope you keep sending us deserted island questions because we love
Absolutely.
those. We
Yes.
love those.
Yes.
And any other questions that you have about yarn in any way, shape, or form, any thoughts you have, anything that you think we might find interesting and want to, hash over, because me and Carla, we have some deep discussions about yarn, especially when we're doing that, getting the show ready. Deep discussions.
Absolutely.
We take this very seriously. Can you all start with me in unison, in stereo? All right. We will see you guys next Tuesday on Yarn Yak.
Tuesday.
And happy yarning, my friends. Have a great rest of your week.
Yarn.